What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is going to be my review and my first impressions of the Kaabo Mantis 8. So let's get started. So one thing has to be said before this video gets started is that this video is not sponsored. Scooter companies like this and e-bike companies like to give me products to be able to not only review and give you guys my first impressions, but also give them constructive criticism about their product to let them know what they need to change through the manufacturing process. A lot of companies like this value not only my opinion, but also my initial thoughts about their product to be able to get out to you guys. Now, there will be times, and there have been times, where I've done paid advertisements for companies, and when that happens, you'll see it on the screen, in the description below, and you'll hear it verbally from me at the beginning of the video. That does not change my opinion about the product, and I let the companies know that from the get-go. Nobody ever pays me to say certain things about their products. So now that that's all said and out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about the Mantis 8 and do a full-on breakdown. So the first thing people want to know about a product like this is how much is it and does it have free shipping? This is $1,199, rounded up to $1,200, let's just say, and you have free shipping, which is awesome with a heavy product like this, because at the end of the day, this would cost a fortune to ship if you had to pay for separate shipping. Now, stepping back and taking a wider look at the Mantis 8, you'll see the different accessories that this thing has. But first, let's talk about the max payload weight of this. So the max load you can have on this is 264 pounds. Now, that would be if you're towing or having some type of backpack on or just extra luggage as well. I weigh 186 pounds, and this thing moves to its top speed with no problem with my body weight. Now, when charging this scooter, it takes about 3 hours and get up to 25 miles per range per charge. This is a 48 volt, 13 amp hour battery pack built in. So it says it has a proprietary charging port, but it looks very familiar to the same charging port that I've seen on previous scooters. So I don't know if that's proprietary maybe towards the battery company. I wouldn't say it's proprietary towards the scooter company, that's for sure. Now, this does have soft ride dual suspension, and the front and rear suspension is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the best I've ever ridden, but it's pretty good for this price point. Now, it is a little bit stiff on the get-go, but I think after working it in for several miles, it'll definitely change in how it feels. Now, with this scooter, you're going to get 1,000 watts of power out of the dual motor setup. So it's 500 watts per motor, front and rear. Now, this is going to come with mechanical disc brakes, not hydraulic disc brakes, but it's 120 millimeter rotors on those disc brakes, which will stop better, I guess, than most other mechanical disc brakes out there. But one thing that this is missing is a hydraulic disc brake, which will make a world of a difference with stopping power, which we'll talk a little bit further down the video as we get to the braking portion of the video. Alright, so this is the gravel path I like to use on all my electric bikes and electric scooters to give you guys the best representation on how these things stop. Now, this was only used with the rear brake only. You don't want to lock up the front and the rear because you will risk having that front end wash out and you will go down with the ship. You want to be able to have the proper weight distribution and pressure on the handlebars to be able to make sure that you stay as centered as you possibly can on the scooter so you don't risk tipping from side to side when you're coming to a complete stop. Now, this took about 30 feet to come to a complete stop. Now, that's not to say that the brakes are bad. They did lock up a lot better on some electric bikes I've ridden before. These are mechanical disc brakes as well with an electronic regenerative braking built in, so you will feel that regenerative braking as you feather the brake. So before you lock the brake, unless it's an absolute emergency, you want to feather the brake coming to a complete stop because you will feel that like jolt of regenerative braking to help slow you down. Now, I feel like the stopping distance would have changed if I had more rugged tires, and you can swap out the tires for other aftermarket tires that are out there, but that will mess with the range and the overall ride experience if you're looking for a smoother ride. If you're looking to have this to be your everyday all go anywhere type of scooter, then you might want something a little more rugged. That way you can actually tackle these type of trails more often. Now, most countries have a rear brake on the right side. As you can see there, it is the front brake only. It locks up only the front, and the rear brake is on the left. Now, make sure you're comfortable in understanding that before you end up going rip around the city or any trails, because that can definitely play a factor. If you're just so used to squeezing the right as a rear brake, you're gonna go down for sure. Now, this thing is pretty torquey. There are other options. Instead of just jumping on and hitting the throttle, you can do a kickstart, which means you initially jump on the scooter 1 foot and you push off and it'll start to go, and then you can use the throttle. That way you don't have to worry about the joltiness of the throttle if you're not used to that type of thing. As we take a wider look at the Mantis, you'll see that it is an aluminum frame. The Mantis 8 is 6061 alloy aluminum. It is one piece of forged aluminum for the frame, and then the fork is a separate piece. Now, the net weight of this is 53 pounds. It's actually pretty light compared to other scooters I've picked up before. Now, you're able to pick this up and take it up the stairs using this lever attachment to the handlebar, which clips to the back of the deck, which makes it a lot easier to be able to carry places, because other scooters I've seen that have had like tags that you would have to wrap around that rear fender, or actually have to just pick the whole scooter up to take it up the stairs. So this is a nice feature to have. Now, moving on up to the handlebars, this was pretty easy to put together, by the way. This is just 4 Allen key bolts to the top cap. The handlebars, you can adjust them either back or forward depending on your riding style. Now, looking at the grips, these are fairly decent. This is probably one of the first things I'm going to swap out, because I like something that's more of a mushroom rubber grip versus this is more of like a, I guess if you go to the gym and there's any type of workout equipment, it has that type of a sweat, you know, soft neoprene type of a feel. So not necessarily my style, but might be your style if you're into that type of thing. Now, the controls are pretty straightforward. Looking at the controls, you're going to see on the left side that there are turning signals, headlamps, and a horn. Now, I'm not too sure what the horn piece is there for. I've tried to work this horn several times. It seems to have no function at all, but the bell feature, I think, is what replaces it. Now, looking at the turn signals, you have a left and a right, and you can actually do a dual hazard mode as well, where you push both at the same time and they'll blink on the deck itself. Now, when you hit the left turn signal, you'll see that it stays on green, letting you know that the left turn signal is on, and on your deck it's going to show the headlight blinking and the tail light blinking at the same time, letting people know that you're signaling that you're turning left. Same thing for the right hand turn. So you hit the left hand turn to turn that off, make a right hand turn, it says the exact same thing on the deck, letting people know that you're turning right. Now, when hitting both on the controller, you're going to have a hazard feature appear on the scooter. Front and rear lights are going to be blinking as if they were a car, letting people know that you're pulled over safely and trying to stay out of the way. Now, the headlight feature is actually pretty neat. There actually is a headlight feature on the front, and then the side of the deck lights up as well to let people know that they can see you on the side, which is actually a really nice touch to this. Another really nice touch is when you squeeze the brake, it blinks on the front and rear, letting people know you're coming to a complete stop. Now, on the right hand side of the controller, you're going to see Eco and Turbo as the top one, and you're going to see Single and Dual as the bottom one. I mean, I find myself staying on the dual motor setup the majority of the time, but just so you know, if you ever power the scooter off and you power it back on, it's going to go straight into gear 3 and stay in dual turbo mode. Okay, so if you're not used to that, you want to make sure that you turn the scooter on, put in the gear you prefer, and take it down to single and eco mode if that's what you prefer. Now, the throttle's a nice setup up here. I've ridden other scooters where it's up here, but the problem is, in my opinion, is if you go into panic mode, you could squeeze the throttle as you're trying to squeeze the brake. You see how easy that is to kind of get in the way? Now, I don't want to say it's a reason to not get the scooter because of how close these two are. I just want to say that you have to familiarize yourself with a scooter before you just go end up pinning it and then trying to brake. So like I said, this is a front brake over here, and this is the rear brake. I know that's a little bit different than what other people are riding on bikes. The rear brake's usually on the right side, but I understand why they did that. So if you were to squeeze the brake while you're squeezing the throttle, the brake will override the throttle and the scooter will stop. The cables are tucked very nicely in that steer tube, so there's nothing really exposed except for at the very top and the very bottom. This scooter is not waterproof. It is water resistant like most other scooters. You do not want to submerge this all the way in any type of water. The scooter will fail. Now, one thing I do want to say that I don't really like about this scooter so far is the grip tape option. The grip tape option is a rubber grip on the actual deck, which I've already noticed it's pretty much peeling. I don't know if that was, you know, something where they didn't put enough glue on there, or maybe just make it easier access to the battery for some people. I will find myself tearing this off here pretty soon and putting actual grip tape on here for the near future. All right, so let's talk a little bit about speed. This has 25 miles of range, going 25 miles per hour. This is 500 watt dual motor. What does that mean? That's 500 watts on the front, 500 watts on the rear. You can either do a single motor going like cruiser speed through the city, or dual motor maxing it out 25 miles per hour, which we're about to do right now in this flat straightaway. So yeah, let's give you an idea on what that will look like. I don't want to say what it'll feel like because you can't really feel anything through the screen, but this is what it'll look like. Let's go. Stops good on asphalt though. Nice. Much better stopping power on this asphalt versus the gravel. Now, one thing I do want to say is it took a little bit longer than I thought it would to get up to that 25 miles per hour. Maybe it's just because I'm spoiled with other scooters that are out there. But that being said, I think it's also because I've been riding this thing now for about 8 or 9 miles straight. I'm also in pretty cold weather. Right now, I think it's about 42 degrees out. And that might play a factor with the battery degradation through the whole process here. But with that being said, this thing is actually pretty fast for what it is, and I'm actually still pretty surprised of the outcome given the price point. All right, so on this trail, I don't necessarily have the best options to be able to show you guys not only the best technique, but if this scooter is able to take the impact of, let's just say, a bunch of stairs or a higher drop. So what I do have is a curb here. Now, I've done this in previous videos where I do like a double tire on the curb and pop off at the end. I will try to do a higher bunny hop to be able to show you guys the suspension setup on this. And I know I mentioned this before in a previous video, but I'm gonna film it this week. I'm gonna film an urban style video to kind of explain to you guys how to best maneuver your way through a city off of curbs, off of ledges, downstairs as safely as possible. So if you guys are into that and you guys wanna see that video, subscribe right now. Let's get this double tire to bunny hop off to be able to show you how the suspension works. So the Kaabo Mantis 8, is it worth the $1,199? And I say yes, because there are some things that I would change, but those are things you can change yourself. The manufacturer probably will change some of these things down the road when the supply chain changes. But with that being said, mechanical disc brakes need to be hydraulic disc brakes. These are just my personal opinions on this. The grip tape issue isn't really that big of an issue if you're into customizing scooters yourself. The grips issue isn't that big of an issue if you're into customizing scooters yourself again. So you can just buy these things for yourself and make it your own. So with that being said, I think that this thing is a really good buy. I'm gonna put it up and compare it to other scooters in the same realm, whether it be 1,000 watt setups, 500 watt setups, dual motor and single motor here in the near future. I do wanna do that urban style video this week, kind of explain to you guys how to best get around the city, go off of stairs, go off of curbs, and just stay safe in the city. So with that being said, if you guys have any other suggestions for future videos, future products you want to see on the channel, put a comment below. If you guys like this video, drop a like. If you love it, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.